Okay. I have no idea what happened there, guys, but for whatever reason, I was just sat talking to myself on stream, thinking everyone could see me. And I have no idea what was going on. So for whatever reason, that didn't work. I do not know why. But thank you all for popping by, like anyone who's here. I'm sorry that got, if you are there waiting for the last one, I do not know what was happening there. Like, it was only because someone started commenting and like, well, Allgate commented in the box. I was here earlier. I was here for about, I would say like, I think it was about a 10-minute stream nearly of me just sitting talking to myself, thinking I had like 8 people watching us, and I was like, wow, it's a very quiet audience. It wasn't until like Allgate commented like a cricket, and I'm like, cricket. I'm like, all right. I was like, oh, you all right, Allgate? And then like he didn't reply, and then our recorder said that, you know, he must be putting on his lipstick, and then I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, they can't see me. I was like, but it said to me, I'm live, right? So on my side, I'm live. So in all intents and purposes, I'm live. So I don't know why it wasn't working, right? Like it's, I'm sorry about that, guys. Sorry about the. Yeah, we did. I had a good Christmas and New Year. Thank you very much, Shadow. I really appreciate it. Yeah, it was really good. Really nice. And nice to see you, Allgate and Hound. I was actually, so we're continuing the Fallout New Vegas hype. I was actually, just so everyone know, I was just at these the cons, aren't the cons, the Kaiser's Legion or whatever. And yeah, well, I was going to fight and kill them, as I did that last time, you know, and it's morning, it's daytime for Hegel, but also, you know, like bringing order to the wasteland, killing these, I would, oh, what the fuck? Oh, what the hell? Why is it running on it so aggressively? Fuck off! Okay, critical strike. Okay. Oh, shit. You don't want some of this. Okay. So... Oh my... The baby mole rat. Right. Okay. Well, I don't know why it did that to itself. But anyway. So... Yeah. Unfortunately, self-preservation has to take precedence because, well, I am absolutely incapable of fighting anything with this health, really. Except for those mole rats. I managed to fuck those mole rats up. Yeah, I had to put my lipstick on. Yeah, man. Yeah, New Vegas. Yeah, right. So we're playing the Philosopher playthrough on New Vegas. I have not heard of Ken Wilber's integral theory. Also, if anyone wants to call in, you're welcome. Call-ins are welcome. The Hegelian wasteland. This is the end of history, man. Nah. Yeah, this is the future that James Lindsay wants. This is what it is. James Lindsay. It's what he probably thinks Hegel wants. I was arguing with some, well, not arguing, but like, you know, talking to some atheists on Twitter, just explaining that agnosticism and atheism are in fact not the same thing, and that lacking a belief doesn't make you an atheist. That you actually got to affirm a negative position to be an atheist. It doesn't make sense to just say that. Now that's fine, right? Like, if you want to be an atheist or an agnostic, whatever. I used to be an agnostic for years. It's just one of those things I just really hate it. That it just seems like... I think it's just a rhetorical tactic used to make atheism like the default position. So it's like, oh, well, I just simply lack a belief, and therefore you're the one that has to provide a positive case while I have to do absolutely nothing. And it's like, oh no, look, man, if you're saying there isn't a God, let's be frank. Let's not make it like I'm actually only saying that I lack a belief, because otherwise you'd be an agnostic. As, you know what I hate is it comes down to the spaghetti monster thing. I should probably just check this place out, shouldn't I? While I'm here. What's going on here? You know what, I'm gonna sleep for an hour in this bed. Ooh. You know, when my gun breaks, I'm gonna be so mad. Pastafarianism. Class. Yeah, it really is a weird. I think that's what it is, Shadow. I think it is about people like trying to argue, like trying to say that they don't have to argue anything, and it's just sort of bullshit. It's like, look, come on, man, like we can't do this. It's just like you know, even if you want to say like you can't prove there's a God, that would be enough, right? It's like, well, that's a challenge. If you say like I can't prove there's a God, and then if you go, well, I can't disprove there's a God, and then it opens up a conversation at least, which I don't think I would actually agree with, because I think I can prove the existence of God, and I think that we have been trying to prove the existence of God for a while. So, like, I mean, a Christian will usually have to take that positive stance, right? It's just the arrogance. But it hasn't always been defined as a lack of belief in a God, right? It's to be without God. Like, it's not. It's about not believing in God. Imagine, like, because otherwise, like, you can't be an atheist, right? Atheism loses like its meaning if you go this route. Because, like, look at it like this: if someone says, "Oh, I don't believe in God, I'm an atheist," right? Okay, it's like, imagine if I said, like, I don't believe it's raining outside. Okay, I'm making a claim about whether it is or is not raining, right? That is essentially the law of the excluded middle, right? It's either raining or it's not, right? The negation itself or the negation is true, right? That's kind of the crux of this, right? So if I say I believe it's not raining outside, then I'm also believe that the proposition it is raining outside is false, right? So if I say I believe it's not raining outside, I am also saying the proposition that it's not raining outside is false. The negation is false. Okay, or the positive's false in that case, right? So in the same case for God, if I say I don't believe that there is a God, right? Remember, a belief is essentially affirming a proposition to be true, right? That's what a belief is, right? It's like, I believe X to be true, right? So I believe that God does not exist would essentially mean that I believe the proposition that God exists is false. So you actually have a belief about the proposition that God does not exist. You just take it to be the negation, right? Like, it's just, yeah, I had to bring up black theism. I fucking hate it, right? Yeah. I just, honestly, it just pisses us off so much, right? Like, because it's just, I'm not, like, if you were to say, like, I don't know, that's absolutely fine, man. This is like some deep shit, right? Like, you know, it's there's nothing wrong with not knowing the answer to like a massively complex question like that, right? Like, it's absolutely fine. There's no shame in going, I don't know, man. Like, either way, like, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. What's wrong is saying that I don't know that you're wrong. Like, it's like saying I don't have a belief in you being right. I have a belief in me being right, which just so happens to imply you're wrong. Like, that's what that, like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's shady, it's sly, it's rhetorical games rather than actually engaging with the topic, right? So if I was to be like, you know, I'm not saying, right, that I have any I can't disprove that it's raining outside. I just lack the belief that it's raining outside, right? And then I go, oh, right, so then you also don't believe, you don't have a belief that it isn't raining outside either. And you go, no, I believe it isn't raining outside. I'm like, well, what the fuck? Like, you have some reason, you have some measure of justification to go, it's not raining outside. It's like, and you know what I hate? They bring up this flying spaghetti monster bullshit. I hate and they make it out like, you can't disprove the flying spaghetti monster. It's like, what? Yes, I fucking can. What's wrong with you? Of course I can. Like what? Like, you believe in a flying spaghetti monster? Like, what the fuck's wrong with you? You know what I mean? Like, you have to kind of just, you have to kind of just, what? And then they'll be like, oh, but it could be like intangible. It's like, well, one, the concept seems self-contradictory, and two, even if you could go and make it like this intangible, like, death of 1,000 qualifications, Anthony Flew kind of thing, we're just going to look at Bayesian probability then and go, it's almost certainly not the case, and that is evidence against it because of the likelihood of it actually being true. But they take it, but then it's like, this is what happens to your brain when you think that there can only be empirical evidence against something. It's like, look, if you're telling me that there is like one, that this is massively empirically implausible, right? One, it's sentient pasta, right? Like I don't know how sentient pasta even could possibly work. It seems to me that sentient pasta isn't necessarily a plausible idea, right? And not only is it sentient pasta, but apparently it can fly, and then it's intangible. And it's like, you're adding a lot of physical back. Like, we started with pasta here. We have certain ontological commitments to pasta, right? And I for one, I'm not going to give up those ontological commitments to pasta because you tell me there's a flying spaghetti monster, right? It's like, no, man, I have very good reasons to reject that. I disbelieve in the flying spaghetti monster. Like, that's the thing, right? Like, oh god, it's just ridiculous, right? Makes sense when you think God is a wizard in the sky. Yeah, you've actually got to think God is a wizard in the sky. Like, you've got to be like the dumbest. It's got to be like the dumbest take about how God would work, right? It has to be like, it's like he is an old man sitting on a cloud with a beard. You're like, well, that seems implausible. The thing is, even if it was that, then you would just go, well, clearly that doesn't exist. And you'd be like, look, like, Charlie, none of that. None of that. You're not allowed to do that. Stop it. You know. Bad for Charlie. All things are possible through God, even this flying spaghetti monster. Oh, yes, of course. If it's a spaghetti monster, would it be anti-vegan to eat it? I don't know. Maybe it would be maybe it depends on what the spaghetti monster eats and everything, right? He's a vegan pasta monster. Gonna feel stupid when I do magic tricks while skydiving. Checkmate, atheist. You're gonna need a beard, man. I've looked at the stars and seen that there is no pasta there. You haven't looked hard enough. That's the... I've heard atheists that... I've heard some atheists say that God is like a commercialized Santa Claus. Oh, no, man. Honestly, it is wild. Like, I the state of like online atheism, like, I see like good atheists like kind of like argue against it. Like, I think Emerson Green, I see him just mostly on Twitter like, please stop representing atheism like this. And I'm like, and then like a Christian will post something and I'll be like, oh fuck, yeah. Man, you, like, there's Twitter is just a place, right? Like, I try to report something, right, on Twitter. Right, I'm a guy who reports things on Twitter. I believe in reporting stuff that's wrong. And it was like sexual violence. Someone replied to like a post with like sexual violence, and I reported it. And Twitter was like, "Nah, man, that's okay." And I was just like, "What?" Like, it just seems to me like that's clearly wrong. You know, like, why would you allow this? Like, doesn't this site like let 13-year-olds or some shit on it? Like, it's like, even the porn stuff, it seems like a bit too far. But we're talking about like sexual violence here. Like, this seems to be like, this isn't okay. You know what I mean? Like, and I just, like, honestly, Twitter, I think, has gotten pretty wild. Like, it just seems to, nothing is clearly wrong. Morality is subjective. That's fucking stupid, man. Like, I actually, like, look, I think there's some people when they say morality is subjective, I don't know how you've managed to get there in your life. I don't know why you think morality is subjective. But something's went wrong. People think God is Zeus. Yeah, I mean, they do think that it's like the same sort of thing. So you're telling me if Jesus incarnates spaghetti, you're not going to side with him over the Antichrist? Look, I'm just saying that the only person that would probably incarnate themselves as spaghetti, right? Like it just seems like, look, it seems to me, my knowledge of culture is that the most Catholic country is Italy, and the inherent enemy of the Italians is spaghetti, right? Like, it just seems to be that way. So I don't think it would make sense for Christ to incarnate himself as spaghetti. That's what I would reply with. Emotivism is true, so I hate emotivism, man. Actually, I believe in absolute morality, so it's like a combination of subjective and objective. HHC. I actually think I'm actually, like, the way I'd put it is that Alistair McIntyre demonstrated, I think, really well, showed that the reason that we have this sort of people online, for example, engaging in subjective morality and stuff like that, is they're normally engaging in the philosophy of about 100 years ago, of like usually like Oxbridge and Cambridge, the sort of logical positivists and stuff like that. Usually they're usually physicalists and nominalists, and I haven't got a fucking clue what's going on in the world in terms of metaphysics. And I'm sorry to say this, but like the only exceptions, I'll give a couple of exceptions. I think maybe like Wittgensteinians, but they wouldn't say it's subjective. They'll probably say it's culturally relative. Like, so cultural relativists, I'll let off a little bit more. I think they at least have some argumentation. They're wrong, but like they have something there. But if you believe that morality is like truly just fundamentally subjective, that can be boiled down to your emotional states, I think psychologically, I don't even think that works. I don't even know how you would manage to even. It just seems like a vapid philosophy, if anything. What's my strongest argument for objective morality? Well, I would go so far as to say that I think that epistemologically there is a pragmatic foundation for truth that is in terms of a necessary success criteria. So, like, if there was no means of actually achieving a positive or negative in relation to some sort of goal or end, which you could know and was actually real, then truth would essentially be impossible. So I would be siding with like that. This is sort of what the German idealists and the pragmatists would argue, that you cannot divorce truth from a subject in the first place. Of course, that wouldn't necessarily make it like objective in the traditional sense, because obviously it's still agent-centered. But I think in general, I think metaphysically, you cannot divorce agency from metaphysical reality. And I think that what's usually happened is that we've tried to divorce the subject from reality itself, and then it's led to a backlash where it's either people go the exact opposite way and they're like, everything in reality is subjective, and you're like a Vorsch or something, and you sort of like you fall into like the sort of postmodernist existential nonsense, which is self-contradictory and falls apart, and you lose truth in general, or you go the other way and you go like physicalist, nominalist, and you're usually trying to affirm that there exists this sort of mind-independent realm which you actually can't access and have no epistemological access to anyway, and you just respond to the problem of induction with, oh, it's not really a problem. That's usually the way I see these things. I'm on Top Chat. Yes, I am on Top Chat. One second, I don't know why I'm on Top Chat. Top Chat. Da 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 da. I think that's the last stream's live chat. That's what's happened. Like, I'm do 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 do. Do 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 do. Top chat. Is the mistake that atheists make they assume that nature is just physical or material? I would say that's like the most common mistake that a lot of people just make. That and like even just a misunderstanding of what physicality would even entail, right? Like what it is, how it works. It's just sort of this. Like if you ask someone, like I remember like asking like so I went on a night out one time, and I'm getting told that philosophy's like it's been like it's no longer important, like science is important, right? By one of my friend's brothers, right? And he's doing physics, and I'm like, oh right, well, like no. And I basically ran the argument like, tell us why we should do physics, and I'm like, okay, well you're going to do philosophy now, right? And he's like, yeah, but it's about reality, isn't it? And like I was like, well, what's reality? And he's like, well, it's like physical stuff, and I'm like, what's physical stuff? And I was just like, it's like, you're gonna go on, define physicality to me. Like, what is it? And it's wild. And it's like, you're studying physics and you can't, it's like, you're just talking about stuff that's outside of you right now. That's physical stuff. You'd be like atoms or particles, and it's like, what is an atom or a particle? Why should I say that? Like what fundamentally, what is it that I'm using to categorize here? Like, give me some notion. And I'm not saying he's a smart lad. He's actually a really smart lad. But it's just like, look, you're gonna have to found this on some sort of metaphysical basis. Like, even and the only people that try, and it's so painful. I hate this so much. It's the physicalists that just say physical science teaches us everything, but they don't tell you why, and they don't tell you why you should only believe in physical science. They just say it does, and hate that, because it's like, look, I love physical science. I love physics, right? I absolutely love physics, but you just can't do that. Like, it's like, oh yeah, physics is really great. Yeah, why? Just is really great. Hello, Maximo. Yeah, philosophy is like that's the foundation, isn't it? It's like metaphysics. You just kind of get away from philosophy, man. Did you put this conversation on YouTube? What conversation? Was it you talking to me? I don't. There's practice of science that there's the modern view of scientism that basically presupposing philosophy that scientism is like so common, man. Where it's like they just presuppose like a metaphysical foundation that they have no idea about. It's like, and it's weird how many scientists will go this route, and then often like when they're pushed on it, they'll just become instrumentalists. They'll be like, oh well, I don't need to have a view on this. Like, and it's like, well, no, you're presupposing one, so you already do have a view on it. You're just pretending you don't. Like, it's like fuck. It's like, just is, yeah. Giga Chad, just is Giga Chad. I wonder if BK is the only nominalist because he's ignorant of different distinctions like virtual or formal, which is an ontological real distinction. I don't know, man. Like I don't know why. Like I think like I'm thinking because it seems to me that I would actually in general say like and like this might be a bit harsh, but from watching Bernardo Kastrup, his philosophy pre-Descartes not too strong. And this is a very continental philosophy thing, very focused like post-Cartesian. Like, I see this in loads of continental philosophers, like a real lack of classical philosophy. Is mistaking you for philosophy to fall into a logical fallacy I don't know the correct term for. There's definitely that is painful. How could I possibly be Abigail Thorne, right? Also, she's technically a Geordie, although I'm not sure if I believe it, right? Just say it's just from Newcastle. I don't buy it. No one has that accent from around here. Like, nah. It's a lie. It's a lie. Fake Geordie. Yes, there are those who see no issues with sexual violence, right? There are also people who believe the world's flat. Like, I don't know what. Like, Like, I don't care. Like, just because somebody's like people could be wrong, right? And I'd be like, wow, you're wrong as fuck. The world is flat. True. Sorry, I meant there's people that think the Earth is a sphere. I thought you were Philosophy Tube, but had detransition. Look, man, Philosophy Tube, Oliver Thorne, before she was Abigail Thorne, had nothing on me. Okay, like there is nothing there. Okay, there was no beard, right? I don't remember seeing a beard, right? So we're not going down. My GF is my world, as she is flat. I hope you have a girlfriend. I wanted to read that. Did you ever look in the atheist argument for the non-resistant belief from folks like Ben Watkins and Alex O'Connor? I haven't actually. Shall we do that today? We could do that. I don't know how much time I've got, but I could check that out. I like the atheists that claim that nothing matters is worse than the view that flat earthers, because flat earthers actually try to argue for their false beliefs. The thing is, I actually do think that if you're a nihilism is like the worst philosophy, right? I have respect for, at least I have respect for atheists that like have I believe in like objective ethics and stuff like that. But it's like if you just fall into like, especially when it's like epistemic nihilism, they just go the full route. There is no such thing as truth. You know, it's like just full on like absolute emptiness. It's like, okay, it's all right, man. I'm sure you're gonna be okay. We're just gonna take the pill. If you just take the pill and we'll have a nice cup of tea and a conversation, everything's gonna be okay. Just because someone believes that sexual violence is bad doesn't make it so. I agree. Just like the flat Earth. It's not about, like, the belief would have to have like a truth maker, right? Like that's kind of the point. There has to be some sort of epistemological justification for you to be able to separate like essentially truth from falsity, right? And I would say in terms of objective ethics, you can actually point to that in relation to the lived experiences of individuals and the concept of goodness itself being tied to a natural function. So it's like, actually, yeah, there is, like, I would argue that there is like both the sort of subjective experiential foundation and the objective how to describe it, the objective identifiable phenomena that you can observe in relation to whether this is a good or a bad, right? Like it's not something like, I think the problem is that people have usually take goodness and badness to be a noun rather than to be a verb, right? Or like an adverb, which is actually a judgment about function. And this is where it originated. And this is a problem in language that originated about 400 years ago. You know, the thing is with threshold deontology, like, it depends on what you mean by threshold deontology, you know what I mean? But like, I was fascinated by that convo you had with Erudite on Fulvi's stream a while ago. I felt you were cut off too much, appreciated it, but some was too fast to process. Oh, I know. I was thinking about that actually before, and I like a little while ago, because I saw Tom Foolery post something. I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. And it would have been nice to explicate like the points more, but I can't remember what she was actually saying. Like she was saying some pretty wild stuff. Oh no, she was trying to say that. Wasn't it trying to say that? Because she says some crazy stuff about being a Christian. Like, you can be a Christian and like affirm some pretty wild stuff. Like, especially like even like there's like from like I can't remember what she was saying. It was. I remember she was saying some pretty crazy stuff about like if one person's a Christian and then one person's not, it would be wrong for them to commit a sin, but not wrong for the non-Christian if they didn't believe in God. So like, it's like, well, no, that like, yeah, like she was like a moral anti-realist Christian or like a moral relativist Christian, which I thought was pretty wild. And then there was, and then like in the conversation with me, I think she was trying to say that, I can't remember how she tried to represent me position. It was like, it was weird. I'm currently reading Pierce, and I need to read more pragmatism in general, Keith, before I can give more of a solid response, to be honest. I do not want to misrepresent, because one, me mod will probably kill us if I misrepresent American pragmatism. And most of my engagement with American pragmatism is just far too light. But thanks. Sorry, Keith. Make me... Yeah, like I can't remember what she said. She said that I was defining God as something. I can't remember, but I remember getting annoyed at that. Which is better, nihilism or trivialism? I think that's I don't read like there's no like at least give us like fictionalism or something, right? Like just give us something, right? Just give us something. Okay. I mean, to be fair, I don't even think nihilism's possible. I think nihilism's just for edgy people who want to seem cool. I don't think it's actually a genuine philosophical stance. I think people can trick themselves into thinking they're nihilists, but like, it's kind of like, what is it? It's kind of like Mackie having to go like, oh, you know, just because you're a nihilist doesn't mean you can't talk about ethics. It's like, of course not. Yeah, sure. You can just pretend as if ethics is objective. You can engage in normative ethics as if your metaethics doesn't matter. And it's like, do you not think like, is this not telling you something about your position? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, if you actually cannot function in your day-to-day life with your beliefs at all, like as in like none of it's kind of like the Humean point about causation, like that he can doubt causation. It's like, well, can you? Because if you're having to leave this conversation and just affirm causation, it doesn't sound like you're actually really truly able to doubt it. It just sounds like you're able to say you can doubt it, but you're not actually able to live the experience of doubting it, which is and I know that it's not like a philosophical defeater, but it does seem to give some indication that there's something wrong with this argument. Like that's exactly how Thomas Reid responded to Hume, where he's like, he just takes the piss out of him. He's like, okay, so you're telling me that you basically have to go outside and believe I'm right. Like, it's like, okay. Jesus loves me no matter what, so I don't need to change when he believe. That's awful. That's awful. That hurts. I prefer talking to trivialists so they agree with me if I ask the right questions. My responses are limited. You must ask the right questions. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Like, Shadow, it does seem like, yeah, there is always something, isn't there? There is always something that they don't relinquish, and then it sort of, you know, like, you've just sort of got to find the pressure points, almost. Oh, we need to be careful about that radio. Is that radio on? Like, it only played for like 2 seconds last time or something, and the stream got demonetized. Which reminds me, if you are going to donate, make sure you donate, well, for one, because I get way more of the money if you donate through the PayPal link, like the Stream Elements link. And then two, like, because YouTube take a cut. And then two, I don't know what happens if they demonetize the stream with the donations. If they take the monetization, and that's just too much of a risk for me to, like, even if you're only donating, like, a few dollars or something, I don't want YouTube to just eat your money. And like, I don't want YouTube to eat my money either, so it's just, do you know what I mean? It doesn't seem right, like, you know, dag nabbit. That the cons again. Con, not the cons, the fucking, it's Kaiser's Legion. Oh, I've just realized I'm fully healed. I can probably kill these ones. Is that guilt by association? Am I in a state of war with the cons? The cons, the fuck Kaiserslautern shit. What would Hegel do? Don't say side with Kaiserslautern because I don't think he would. Fucking evil. Clearly evil. Not even heroic morality, it's just absolute barbarianism. Really, like, Hegel's consideration of, like, the bloody golden horde or something. It's probably hounding in chat now, just going like, he would definitely agree with them. Probably saying something like, it's not my fault that Hegel says something that I could just see it. Sublate them, PP. You know what you have to do. What do I think of Loner Box? Well, I haven't watched too much Loner Box. He seems cool enough though. Scottish guy. He's like fairly left wing, isn't he? Like I know he's like leftward leaning. Oh shit, I'm getting attacked by someone. Am I? Okay. Okay. Zap. Yeah, but I don't know, sorry, I don't know much about Loner Box in terms of his content. He seems like a cool guy. Scottish, left wing. I think there's some things that I think we disagree on. I think he's a little bit more on the progressive side in terms of social politics than me, but in terms of economics, I think we're probably, I don't know if we disagree that much. I'm fairly, like, left economically. So it's, I mean, like, I know he does mostly politics. I think, I keep saying this, I think politics is too damn hard, man. There's too much involved. I need to, like, I feel like I don't know enough about economics to even make, like, I know that there's, like, certain things that I think need to be essentially established where, like, people's rights and like, you know, people's, like, there's certain rights and necessities that I think clearly can be like essentially maintained, and that at least in the sense that we've already had an economic system that seems to have been able to maintain certain rights and liberties and so on, like healthcare and education and so on. And so when we're seeing like the Tories essentially rip that apart, I can see that as essentially a failing. Oh, is that the cacti? Really? But like when it comes to like understanding like how an economic system should be like made more fair, like how would we progress beyond this sort of but beyond the kind of the best forms of social democracy that we've had, I'm not sure, you know, like, and I'm like, how do we make cooperatives more I shouldn't have attacked those, really. This was a mistake. This was a terrible, terrible mistake. Excuse me. It'd become nighttime. I just became like, too impulsive straight away. Okay, what's that? Are you work as owning the means of production? Are you for work? Well, I mean, like, I don't think that the psychological alienation of workers in the workplace, like from owning, or rather the alienation of workers from owning their own, from the product of their own labor is the problem, right? Like, you know, and in which case, like, I think that's what needs to change, and there needs to be like adequate compensation. I'm for a distributionary system, changing the distributionary system, but I'm not for any form of like sort of communism that's been tried. I don't think any of them have functioned, for one, and I think most of them have been far more oppressive than they have been liberating. So it's kind of hard. I would say like market socialism in terms of an economic theory is the one that I'm most attracted to. Like, you know, like John Romer, isn't it? But at the same time, again, like I know so little about economics that I don't really want to say one way or the other, because it's like, well, like I don't also want a system that just collapses in on itself and creates political instability, because political stability is more important. Like at the end of the day, like political ideals are good, but you also have to balance that against like a sort of pragmatic reality. I don't think a theocratic monarchy would be good, no. Not unless God himself comes down. Yeah, he's definitely left of center. He seems to be a calm, cool guy. Yeah, probably calmer than me. Why would I be a monarchist, Maximo? Like just because I'm British? Are you sure? Let's go to another go. How do I square away my position of skeptical theism with belief in things like heaven, moral commands, the Bible? When you say skeptical theism, you're saying that what was it like? What is it specifically? It's what was it? What was it like? Because I remember it was because I'm not really used to this terminology. I remember last time I was in one of the videos that I watched and responded to recently, and it sounded similar to my position. But what was it? It was like it was a response to the problem of evil. It was like the problem of suffering. It's not like a one. I'm not a theologian. And send. Oh no, I actually think that we can come to know God's like reasons for acting. I don't think that we can become like, I never said like, I think the difference is like, yeah, so I do actually think that we can come to know the mind of God, not perfectly know the mind of God. So like, I don't think there's a problem there, Ivan. Did anyone I know cry when the queen died? Probably, I think so. Like half the fucking country cried. Like, I don't know, man. Like loads of women, like I think probably cried. Like, and I think like there's a lot of blokes around here that are like royalists, man. Like I used to be a royalist when I was younger. And don't get me wrong. Like I actually think that there's a place for the monarchy. Like I think that there is a place in a constitutional democracy for a monarch. But like, I don't want to be like, I hate these people that are protesting like, oh, we want to be a republic, and it's like, look, if there's any reason like to not be a republic, it's just that I don't want the House of Commons to have more power. Like, if there's anyone that I'm really fucked off with, it's the Commons. It's not even the Queen. Like, the aristocrats aren't even the ones that are bothering us right now. I look at the House of Lords and I'm less disgusted than I am when I look at the House of Commons. So it's kind of like, I mean, like, obviously it's the political parties as well. Like, that's the main thing, and that's, like, the way that functions in the... I know, Alex O'Connor has his sort of beliefs, doesn't he? I don't know why. I did see the point when Destiny and Alex Jones were like, no, you. No, you. That's all I've seen. That's all I've seen in that. Claims that God would not permit a given evil in the first context if undermined by your inability to reason to deny that God's act of permitting the evil in question has beyond justification. I mean, that's not what I said. I think I said that when we're talking about the rational structure of reality itself and the way in which our reason is structured is tied directly into a pre-structured, already given logical relationship. If you're talking about the sort of meta, it's not even like, it's sort of meta, it's like meta epistemological and meta, it's like meta real, right, at this point, where it's like, okay, we're talking about something that actually goes beyond our capacity to reason. Yes, I don't think I really can know anything about that. Like, God's motivations and, like, beyond, like, it wouldn't be even God's motivations, like, it'd be more like how to structure the entirety of reality such that it actually leads from the birth of creation to the greatest of all possible worlds, yeah, that sort of stuff goes beyond me. And I think that it probably goes beyond humanity as well. And I don't think there's anything really wrong with saying that. I think that's a bit much, right? And I don't think and my whole point was to say I don't think we can say one way or the other. Like, I don't think I can prove that this is the greatest of all possible worlds in the sense that I can say exactly why, like, God's reasons for creation, right? Like, for creating himself, or how, or understand God in himself perfectly, right? Like, that would be sort of nonsense. But I can make an argument for the existence of God, which would imply that this is the greatest of all possible worlds, right? And likewise, the atheist can do the same in terms of, they say like, okay, but at the same time, they can't prove that it's not the greatest of all possible worlds. And I was just saying it's an epistemological gap. Oh, the Cosmic Skeptic. Sorry, I missed it. Oh, yeah, the Destiny and Cosmic Skeptic thing. Oh, yeah, I watched that one. That was all right, actually. A lot better than the Destiny Alex Jones one, actually. Oh, yeah, that was all right. I haven't finished my PhD yet. I'm hoping to go back to it. It's just me. I think I've said that. I've said this like 100 times now. Like, me lecturer was made redundant, and then I had to like change uni, and I haven't changed uni yet. But I might be going back in February. Might be. I need to apply, actually. Well, not apply, but like sort things out for it. Why is your Twitch stream scuffed? I actually think that the bitrate's too high. I meant to change that. I think that the bitrate's coming through too high, and I can't change it once I'm streaming. Yeah. Yeah, I can't change it when I'm streaming. I don't think. It's kind of frustrating, but Alex Jones is my spirit animal. I love the Alex Jones indie music video. That's a good one. Pray for me, PPM, heading to university in the fall for anthropology. That's pretty cool, though. That's pretty cool, man. Okay. Just gonna quickly... Call-ins are welcome, by the way, if anyone wants to call in. I don't know if I've... Oh shit, I forgot I'm under attack, aren't I? But... Well, actually, I attacked them, but... I should have... Oh, fuck. Getting wrecked by the prickly pears. Oh, fuck! Oh. No. Why didn't I save it before taking the shot? Why didn't I save it? Oh, where am I going to be? Alright, the game just crashed. Okay. Okay. Right, okay, it's back. Computer science degree. Oh, that's pretty cool. You've actually got a useful job. You need to get out of here. You're not allowed to be here. You're not allowed to have a useful degree in this chat. That's far too employable. The fact that we cannot think of a justification of a given evil does not imply that the evil in question has no justification. I mean, that's not what I'm saying. I mean, like, remember, like, what I'm talking about is the structure of reality such to say that it is an evil or not an evil in the first place. Right? Because it would actually be a good. Like, it's just that we're perceiving it to be an evil because we don't understand that it is. Like, and also the suffering would be a bad. It's just there would be like a lesser evil than if it didn't actually happen. Oh, as a response to enemy mobs. Alright, okay, fair enough. I would do philosophy, but I can't afford to live in Dublin. Move to Newcastle. There you go. Just change country. You know, actually, you know, the thing is that, like, it's actually painful. Like, you'd have, like, half of the women in Newcastle, like, fucking, like, swooning. Just an Irish accent. It's actually wild. You'd think, like, I think we talk quite nice. But I think, is it just because you are seen to be, like, exotic? I don't know what it is. But, like, seriously, like, an Irish accent in England's, like, it's really, really good. Like, if... Bastards. Absolute bastards, really. I'll make some money, then go back to uni to do philosophy. Or, you make some money and you buy my course. Someone's got to fund the streams, and I'm sorry that it's you, okay? There's free will everywhere, very fitting. I'd argue for you. What's your favorite animal if you have one? Probably a dog. I'm quite basic in that respect. I very much like dogs. I think they're really cool. I like dogs. They're solid animals, right? Like, they're chill. They're loving. They're loyal. Like, you can't really go wrong with a dog, man. Like you know, I don't like. It's like everyone wants to say like some sort of like badass animal, and it's like, let's be like maybe as if I was to be like really like oh, there's an animal with like a certain like. It's never like traits of like positive things. It's just strength. It's always like, oh, like it's a wolf. It's like strong and like you know, like I don't know. Maybe like a fox is probably the coolest one that you could go for. That's like just sort of like cunning. I think that's quite cool. Time it's like I want like hawks and bears and like I don't know, just like predatory animals. Like, you know, and the people like and like the thing is that like. I'm very, like, if someone has a lot of things of predatory animals in their house that they associate with, I become very uneasy around that person. I'm like, you're associating with a lot of predators here. Did the stream pause for you guys? Did it? Is it paused? But like I look at like, so if someone's like got like predatory animals everywhere. Now I'm not saying that like some people admire things in predatory animals that's totally nothing to do with that predatorial nature, but it's still, you know, that psychos also like there's like stories of like psychos. Was like I watched like a TED Talks of a guy who was like talking about like psychopathy and saying it's a spectrum and stuff like that. And he was saying that he went to this guy's house and his job was like sack people for corporations, and he did this test on him to see whether he was a psycho. And like he's like, you know, like he'd say something like, do you not care about the outcomes and consequences of others? And he'd say, I'm highly competitive. Yeah, and it's just like, what? Like, you know, so it's kind of like, all right, you know, but apparently he had like loads of like predatory animals up around his house and stuff. It's what, you know, when people have like actual dead animals in their house, like heads of fucking deer and shit. Nah, they're fucking psychos, man. Like, nah, do not trust any one of them. It's like, you will shoot me and put me on your wall if my hair looks nice. Like, that's like, nah, man. Live chat is down. Really? It means they're coming through fine for me. A brief moment, not paused. Other than wanting to believe that it's true, what other factors determine whether you accept or reject arguments? Well, I think justification. So I would say, like, in terms of justification, there's logical coherence. and there's so I'd say there's a combination of things like logical coherence, and then like a kind of correspondence, right? Like a combination of correspondence and coherence. Is probably what I would say. In terms of justification, theory of justification. So it'd be like, I don't want to say I don't think that either side is totally right in this respect, but I think that in terms of coherentism versus correspondence, but like we can appeal to something outside of ourselves, or even something like greater than our mere beliefs. Trent Horn and Mindshift Skeptic. Brandon seemed to view heaven as hell, and asked that he could have a suicide button to annihilate himself in heaven. I mean, I just think he's fucking, like, anyone who thinks heaven is hell is just a fucking, like, deluded. Like, it's just deluded, right? Like, there's something, like, let's be honest, like, I actually talked about this once, like, I thought it was interesting, is like, and I think there's actually, you know, a kind of pop philosophy. If anyone's listened to the song Afterlife by Avenged Sevenfold, and the concept of that song is about someone who dies too young, right? And that they feel out of place in heaven, and they want to go back to their life, but they want to come back to heaven, right? Like, it's not like totally like, I want to be in heaven, right? And I think that there's something interesting there. Like, could you be incompatible with heaven? And I think as a Catholic, you'd have to be able to say, like, yes, if you're to transport someone to heaven, without essentially purifying, like, that purification of, like, purgatory, of trying to live a good life and actually, like, prepare yourself for beatification, it would essentially sear you alive. like it would be, the blinding light of God would just, like, it would just be incomprehensible, right? Like, it would be too, it'd be impossible for us to perceive, right? And it would force us to like, sort of reflect on ourselves and, like, essentially modify ourselves, I suppose, in a sort of rapid way. And maybe that's what purgatory really kind of is this sort of slowly coming to realize God. But it is an interesting point of, like, could you be incompatible with heaven? It's like, it's the best of all possible worlds, or, like, the best of all possible outcomes for me. But could I not want the best of all possible outcomes for me, such that it forms a contradiction in me that I can't want what is good for me? And the problem is then me, right? Like, let's be honest. It's not like the outcome. It's not. It's I'm the fucking problem. Can I be my own worst enemy? And I think absolutely you can be. And I think that shows, like, a need for a metaphysical rebirth, right? Of rejuvenation, right? Like, you kind of have to resolve the damage to your soul in order to actually will what is best for you. And I think that's kind of the whole point of Christian ethics, right? But I think to say that that an individual, you know, could actually be in heaven and experience beatification and then be like, this is hell, that's I think just stupid, really. It depends on what he means, though. Watch you since you moved me on your Destiny debate over objective morality. You've lost me on the Catholic Hegel arc, though. What's the best resource to understand your position? I mean, Hegel in general. I mean, I've always been a Hegelian. Even when I was on Destiny, I was just obviously agnostic back then. I need to make more content in general to sort of just maybe answer it. I think that would probably be the best thing, Ivan. I would recommend reading Hegel. If you want to read Hegel, like, you could read The Philosophy of Right or A Beginner's Guide to the Philosophy of Right. I think is really interesting. By David Edward Rose. I think that's really nicely put. It's very simple. Like, it's a nice, easy in. It's not simple, because it's actually still really fucking hard, but it's like human language, I think, you know what I mean? It's not like Hegelian. So you could read that and check that out. Like, David Rose's Beginner's Guide for the Philosophy of Right. And yes, I'm talking about Hegel. Oh, and yes, I do have a video on Hegel. I forgot about that. Thank you. I do have a video on Hegel. You can check out Hegel in 17 minutes. That's on my channel. And I talk about Hegel there. Also, you could check out, if you want like a really like, if you want to get into Hegel himself, I'd recommend checking out the Lesser Logic or the Encyclopedia Logic. I think that's really good. I know it's not an introduction. He said Hegel. He said Hegel, Maximo. He said Catholicism as well, right? Like, you know, like, if you want an introduction to Catholicism, then you could start with maybe like the Catechism of the Catholic Church, or the Catechism of St. Pius X is actually a really good one. But, you know, like, yeah, like... Oh no, there's a lot in it, like, Ivan, to be honest. Like, I think Hegel's underappreciated by Catholics. If I'm honest. I think Hegelian philosophy is totally compatible with Catholicism. I know that Maximo and I think Mario disagree heavily. And I know Mario's trying to tell us that I believe that panentheism is essentially incompatible with Catholicism, but I don't think it is. I actually think that Aquinas is a panentheist. But, you know, there's like a lot of debates going on. I don't disagree so heavily. Or at least Maximo's like not that I know Mario's not happy. I'm not fully convinced he's compatible. That's fair enough. Like, I'm still working on it. So I don't know, man. I think it's fair to say that everything, like a kind of a Catholic view of history, would even be able to say that perhaps, like, I do actually think that Protestantism has led to some positive outcomes for the Catholic Church, even. It forced us to question ourselves and the actions that we were doing internally within the church, right? Like, indulgences weren't cool. There's a lot of corruption that's been in the Catholic Church, right? Like, that has been forced, that it was pulled into question by people going, actually, we'll leave. And that political sort of tenet of people having the capacity to, like, schism, essentially, is, or just simply abandon the church, is, like, the apostates, has actually led to some positive reflections in the church, right? The Americanism heresy, which is a cool ass name. That is actually a pretty fucking cool ass name. What is the American? What is the Americanism heresy? What the fuck? I've never even heard of that. Term as a result that the Irish Catholics, which largely controlled the Catholic Church in the United States, increasingly demonstrated total loyalty to the Pope and suppressed traces of liberal thought in the Catholic colleges. I didn't know about this, man. I guess this is some American history. Catholic American history. At the bottom of the conflict was cultural, and the continental conservative Europeans, angered at the heavy attacks on the Catholic Church in Germany, France, and other countries, moved to stamp out the individualist attitude in America. Ooh. Whoops. No, man, I mean, America is actually too individualist, in the sense that it's like hyper-individualist, right? Like, contemporary Western capitalism's like, every man for himself at this point, isn't it? Like, is it Charlie? Is that Charlie? He's not bothered now. Tofu. Oh, he loves tofu, doesn't he? He does. Yeah, I mean, American Catholic. I mean, Catholicism's actually grown in America, isn't it? Like, there was like a lot of American Catholics, but as well, like, I know that like there's a lot. I know there's a lot of anti-Catholic stuff in America. but in general, like, I think there's been some, like, positive, like, to be fair, like, I think, I don't know, there's horrible stuff in Protestantism where I'm like, what the hell's going on there, man? Like, people are just losing their shit. Like, you know, you see some of the Protestants and they're just, you know, they're like, they're speaking in tongues, right? You know, and you're like, you know, or they're giving money to, like, these, like, mega churches, and it's just like, you know, oh no, oh no. Hello, son. But then there's other things like, you know, like, I'm not as offended at, like, something like Anglicanism. I don't think it's right, like the Anglicans, but I don't think it's right, but I'm not offended. Like, but I mean, that's just Catholic light, really. Diet Catholic. With arguments for God, I get lost around what we are referring to. Which properties are immaterial, omni, creator, or others? Are any or all necessary? Well, I think that the omni traits, in terms like omniscient, omnipotent, omnibenevolent, are all necessary traits of God, and I think they can all be deduced from divine simplicity, and divine simplicity can be deduced from natural reason. Excuse me. So I would say that, like, essentially, and even the Trinity, I would say, can be deduced from natural reason. So I think all of these things, like, are essential to God and can be deduced in relation to God, by an act of natural reason itself. So, like, by the observation of the natural world and the contemplation of the world around you, you can come to know God. And the Trinitarian Christian God, for that matter. I think faith and reason are united in that respect. I mean, unlike Aquinas, I would say that I think that you can argue for the Trinity through rational means, where Aquinas didn't believe you could. I don't know why Aquinas didn't believe you could, but yeah, that's sort of the. I mean, like, okay, I really mean the Church of England, Shadow. I just mean, like, the one here, that the most normal, yeah. How do I argue against diets who try to say that that's the natural position of God? What? What do you mean? I don't know what you mean necessarily. I don't think 3 is an arbitrary limit. So, like, the way that Hegel talks about these things, and I think Hegel's work on the Trinity is the reason that I'm most convinced. Why I think Hegel is very underappreciated is really that he shows that it is essentially logical self-relation. So everything, what he terms in terms of what's called the unity of opposites, he shows that there is a dialectical oppositions essentially in all identities. And so all identities can be boiled down into 3 sort of states. And those 3 states are universality, particularity, and individuality, such that you can characterize any single object or any single being in those 3 states, such that all substances have those 3 states. Now, in perfection, those 3 states would be 3 persons, because what we're talking about is the absolute, like, it's the absolute, right? Like, it is the absolute substance, the absolute subject, absolute mind. And so it would be a manifestation of perfect subjectivity as its universality, particularity, and individuality. I mean, rather than, like, because obviously there's ontological kind of baggage there that you'd have to go, well, why is it persons? Why is it not like you know, objects in that as well, which would require, like, a little bit more unpacking. But suffice it to say, I find it very convincing. It's not that it's, like, sort of randomly, like, 3. It's like 3 because it is a logical relationship. And you can even see this in the Catholic conception of the Trinity in the first place, right? Like, the Father and the Son form a spiration which creates the Holy Spirit, and that is the Trinity. So, like, this, like, the relationship between the Father and the Son is the Spirit, which is their unity as an individual. So, like, the unity of God is in spirit, which connects the Father and the Son, but it connects them only from each other's perspective. So you could imagine it, if you have a being that perfectly reflects itself, So if the most perfect mind in the world, if the most perfect mind that could exist to understand itself, it would need to reflect itself, and in that moment of reflection, it would have to create another mind from itself, which would be like the sun. It would be begotten, right? So in order to perceive itself, it creates itself to perceive itself. And then that forms a spiration, which is a relationship between two unifying, which perfectly constructs a new third position, which is the unity of the two. So you have like the universality of God, the particularity of God, and the individuality of God, which would be the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. I mean, it actually is divinely simple. This is the thing. Like, it's like it would be perfectly mediated. So the thing is with divine simplicity. Remember that divine simplicity isn't. It's about not having parts that are different from the whole. So it's the same substance throughout the whole thing. So it's not like, remember, like, simple isn't parsimonious or like I don't know, like basic. It's not like that. Like simple means like essentially non-composite. Charlie, stop it. Nothing's truly simple here. You're not wrong, are you? We should probably pick words that don't have like meanings outside of what we're saying, and we just make up new words, and that way people don't get confused when we use these words in a way which doesn't conform to what people think, and they're like, what do you mean? That's not simple at all. Yeah, oh fuck no, that's not what we mean, man. Like we don't mean that's easy to understand. like for example, I think like Aquinas basically says it's a mystery and it can't be understood really without like essentially revelation. Yeah, I'm sure I went this... Oh, is it because I didn't walk down this stupid road and I killed the guys in the first... What is going on, man? Oh, it did as well. It did actually make us go all the way back. I knew something was wrong. Oh, right. At least I can fast travel to this. Shunned by them, but I can just rock up apparently. I can probably kill these guys now. Should I just do it? Wait a minute, should I just... I'm gonna give this a go. Okay. Detected. Okay. Maybe come back at night. Detected. Charlie, you better not be doing what I think you're doing. Hey. Stop it. You're hurting yourself. Yeah, Kant is really good for giving definitions. He's like, actually... I mean, the thing is that, like, you get this sort of thing in, like... any talk about Platonism as well. Yeah, similar in the sense that it doesn't require multiple... well, that has nothing external to itself. Like, basically Ivan. Which would mean that it was, like, rationally self-contained. The reason for its existence is is entirely contained within itself, which is essentially the definition of like a necessary being, which is sort of. I'm very much a fan of the Leibnizian argument from sufficient reason. I think that's the best sort of cosmological argument that you'll find, if you will, if you call it a cosmological argument, I guess. Where am I? So, how do you argue against theists who try to argue that their views in the natural position of God? Well, I would say that, like, I mean, one, I think that the deists, like, don't, like, you can't make the, and this is my whole point, right? I do not believe you can make a distinction between God and reality such that God is essentially absolutely unconnected with reality. I think that the relationship of God to reality is necessary to explain, to even be able to affirm God's existence in the first place, and to say that you can know God's existence. Otherwise, how, like, I mean, you can say that maybe it's causally, like, you can kind of trace things back, but I don't think it's a constant, sustained relationship. It's not something that seems to be, he just makes it and walks away. I think that you need the final causation in order to actually give a positive account for God. Otherwise, it's just efficient causation, and you're not going to be able to give an account that actually explains the reason and the motivation and activity of the natural world, such that you can give a linear account of how things develop, right? Yeah, I would say it's better than the Calum, Ivan. I prefer it to the Calum, but that's just me. And that's just me. Dark chalky biscuits. Fallout. Yeah, man. Fallout New Vegas. Ooh, we're gonna get ourselves killed. So I'm gonna save it now before I die, and that way... No, how the fuck they've seen me, I do not know. How can they see me, man? It's like, it's getting... Oh, shit.
You like that?
Yeah, what if I did? In the face. Oh.
Ah! They killed him.
Had enough?
They fighting each other. Wow, he just fucking murked her.
Run away. They hardly even know how to fight.
Oh god. They're not coming for me, are they? How did this even happen? They can sense I'm a Hegelian. That's the only explanation. Leibniz biscuits. Is that a thing? I didn't know that was a thing. Essentially, the reason is particulars, universals, and their unity. These elements are embedded in the universe, and this is the omniscience and benevolence of God. No, so it'd be more like this is the... I mean, the omniscience and omnibenevolence of God would be tied to the fact that when... Like, it's not that it's just embedded in the universe, it's that these have... That you can deductively argue back towards a simple necessary being. A being which necessarily causes itself or is the reason for its own existence, right? From the Leibnizian point. You have to be able to say that there is something which is essentially self-caused. A self-caused being would have to be wholly actual and contain no potential, and so would be purely simple. And then from the point of pure simplicity, then you would start to be able to argue for things like omnibenevolence, omniscience. So, for example, omniscience would be the fact that all existence is essentially derived and sustained from this being, such that he is essentially the beginning of all things. He's the efficient cause of all reality, and such that its existence would have to be contained within him, such that he would essentially be present in the being, at least know it from the sense of being able to create it. And then there's arguments, for example, like the continuation of the existence of that being would be a manifestation, would be a permanent manifestation from this being, such that his choice, because it's eternality, right? Like, the difficult thing in this sort of philosophy is to think that time itself is the product of the act of creation, not prior to the act of creation, such that time and there's arguments for this. Like Aquinas goes into the arguments for this and how like time is actually a logical interrelation from the particulars and stuff, but like that time itself comes into being from creation, such that prior to time, like the unity of the relation of all particulars with each other is the act of creation, which would be simultaneous to God. So God doesn't experience reality temporally; he experiences it atemporally, which is absolutely, which would be absolutely simultaneous. So, like God's relation to all creation would be an efficient cause of creating the universe as a single united end. And in the sense that in relation to the first and last cause, in relation to essentially a logical chain relating to himself back to himself, such that he is the first and last, the beginning and the end of the universe, right? And so, like, he is present in all of the universe. His being is present in all the universe. And then there's things like omnibenevolence, like, if his being is present in all creatures, then his experience, if he knows everything that we know, if he experiences everything that we experience, our consideration of ends is basically fundamentally tied to him being the end. So, like, our conception of good is actually a diminution of his goodness and self-love, such that our love for ourself and our essentially our experience of ourself is tied directly to his experience of himself and his self-love. And so our ends are only explainable in relation to a causal chain, which essentially places us as having the capacity to fulfill an archetypical idea, which he essentially manifests, such that our experience makes sense, so that there is a formal relation that moves through our entire lives. So it'd be like, what is the unity of the being in question moving through time? Like, what is the substance? And that is essentially going to be our final cause, our end, right? Like, it's going to be directly tied to that, in relation to a formal cause, which is what Aquinas is going to say is an archetypical idea, sort of perfect manifestation of our substance, and that's going to be like our souls. But and the argument is essentially that his love for us is directly analogous to his love for himself, and even that he experiences what we experience, right? There's like that kind of like meme, like people meme it all the time, where it's like a guy injecting heroin and has Christ's arm, like as he's injecting it, but it's actually legitimately like that. He would actually experience everything we experience, such that, like, and this is how I would give an explanation for the Christian conception of like the atonement. Like, Christ always suffers with us. Like, that's what sin is. Sin is essentially the God's self-rejection. So God is experiencing his own creation rejecting him, which is causing him suffering, right? Like, that's like essentially it, right? Which is why the atonement makes sense. I'm trying to think what's like, and in the same respect, omniscience. Like, if he's omnipresent and he's intimately, if he is aware of everything from its own perspective, from every possible perspective, then he knows everything that can, and ever is capable of happening. Also, because he is 100% actuality, all things that have happened or could have happened are manifest from his self-knowledge, right? And that's why, like, Aquinas would say, like, knowledge is the mind of God. Essentially, the knowledge, God's knowledge, is the most causative thing. And what does God know? God knows himself, and that's all being. So yeah, like, I do think that all of this can be reached through natural reason. I don't know if that. How was that like? I don't know if that like actually explained it that well, or if it was too convoluted. But I do give an account for this in some respects. Like, I do talk about these concepts more in my response to the majesty, in response to majesty of reason. I think I talked to him about like how Aquinas would reconcile some of the temporality sort of stuff, and how I think that Aquinas is an eternalist and not Yeah. I'm the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. Yeah, man, it's so based. I will give unto him that thirst of the fountain of the water of life freely. I am the Alpha and the Omega is actually so based, man. It's such a good quote. I love Fallout. God must be perfect. Nothing can be added to him. So how can anything outside of God's exist unless his essence allows things? Yeah, well, I agree. Like, I don't think it makes sense to talk about a being like that outside of God that has a real. I mean, I think like Mario's going to say something like, you know, like he said, like, you know, we're going to make the virtual versus real distinction. But in which case, I just think that we're basically saying that, like, we do exist inside of God, but God isn't dependent upon us, which is what I say. Anyway, so I don't know why Mario seems to think we disagree, and I don't think that I don't think I'm committed to something that Mario isn't already committed to, and I think he's just using different words to me, but I'm not sure. We need to the Alpha and the Omega movie. God is a wolf fairy confirmed. For fuck's sake, it would be an Irish person that would say that, wouldn't it? Do you think that will get to the experience parts of creation that we weren't part of in heaven? Yeah, I do believe that will be united in truth, which I think will essentially reveal at least like maybe not all of reality to it. I'm not sure about that, but I think that at least reveal like a kind of perfect subjectivity in terms of our own souls, such that we would understand, I think, our own substance to a greater degree. I think we will finally know ourselves. Not in the same way that God knows himself, but in a way that is a beatific vision of reality, if you will, you know? An experience of absolute truth. I love that. It's like the Good Place, isn't it? It's like, is that the smell of absolute truth? The Good Place was so good until it wasn't, right? And it just became utilitarianism. I was so happy with The Good Place for so long. I was like, oh, this is going really well. And then when it started to actually break down into like how people got into heaven, I'm like, why did this started with deontology. Why did this, and other like moral theories, it mentions them, and I'm like, it's really good. And then it just turns into utilitarianism. And it's like, why does this keep happening? Why must this keep happening? Do you believe that our fate has already been actualized outside of time, including a choice we would have made? I mean, I believe that, like, when you say actualized outside of time, remember that it is one with the actualization. I think God would experience it in a way which is different to us, that's all. And I think that doesn't mean that our choices aren't free, logical relations that have been self-caused. So, like, we still have causal power in this relationship, and our causal power is respected and understood by God. But God already knows it from a way, like, it's sort of like the problem is that we're so stupidly linear that we think that atemporality and temporality are incompatible, when actually atemporality is essentially the foundation of temporality, and that all that we're really talking about is logical relation between particulars, right, or individual objects, right? And we like to think of these things as essentially, like, incompatible. Yeah, like, you know what was weird? You know that, like, woman who was, like, in The Good Place, who was, like, she was, like, the cokehead or something. And, like, she was actually, like, a horrible person, but, like, she gave loads of money to charity. And so, like, just before, like, she died, but the money didn't hit the account. So it's not even like she would have got into heaven. She literally would have bought her way into heaven. But because the money, like, because she died or something, it didn't, like, they weren't sure whether it counted. And so they put her in, like, the middle place or something, where it was, like, eternally, like, neutral. It's like, what the fuck is that? Like, one, that seems like a kind of hell, right? That doesn't seem like even a little bit like a heaven. Everything seems very, very, like, very sterile there. And like, it's like a kind of like a Kierkegaardian hell, right? Like, of just an eternal boredom. And then, like, yeah, it just didn't seem to match. It's just like, what moral theory would be like, even make this, like, why? Kafkan, yeah, like, yeah, you know, the time is like a big ball of wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey stuff. PP's view of God's perception of time. That's true. That's it. I even said the word wimey. I remember saying that many times. Timey-wimey. Timey-wimey still. Oh, what time is it? Okay, guys, I'm going to stay on for like another 20 minutes and then I'm bouncing. Timey-wimey stuff.
Between you and me, I don't think she studied at an accredited institution.
Howdy.
Howdy.
Prim as a new sheriff. That should keep the powder gangers
Prim is a
away.
new sheriff. That should keep the powder gangers away.
I feel like I'm supposed to talk to someone here, but not sure who it's supposed to be. Probably should just follow the Novak. No vacancy, for fuck's sake. So just, they're in here.
Hey there.
I've just remembered, I didn't go and save the ghoul man and reprogrammed the Prim bot to be the sheriff, but I'm pretty sure the ghoul man was like a genuinely good side character that like actually could travel with you or some shit. The 10th Doctor. Oh, yes. Oh, Doctor Who. I don't really care about Doctor Who. I never actually liked Doctor Who. I couldn't get into it. I like Star Trek too much. Right? Like, Doctor Who's like... And I know Star Trek's almost as science fiction, like, as Doctor Who. Like, they just make up words and they're like, quantum singularities are fluctuating the spatial temporal field. And everyone's like, oh, fuck. And, you know, like, and I get that. At the same time, it just seems more legit, right? Like, like, you know, like, I don't know, man. Like, there's something about Doctor Who that I just couldn't get into. There's some things, it just seems like, I don't know why, man. The space jargon is definitely a Voyager issue. I'm a DS9 guy myself. Voyager does have a little bit more of the space jargon, but they all have it. Like, for example, they'll say stuff like there's some stuff that makes sense. So they'll say, like, in terms of the transporters, they'll say that they've got something like a Schrodinger compensator. So it's like, all right, okay, that makes sense. You have to know, like, obviously, if you're able to move essentially matter at like, you know, you have to be able to account for essentially the spin and direction. I get that. Like, so you're gonna have to find some way of like essentially overcoming like just fucking quantum dynamics, right? Like, yeah, but like we're reversing the polarity of something, or like, you know, remodulate the frequencies, and like it's like some of it makes sense kind of, and then some of it's like, I'm gonna think about that one, and I'm pretty sure that's not gonna make sense. But like, you don't need to, like, that's the thing. So like, you have to like really kind of concentrate to look for a problem in Star Trek where it's like you can kind of just take it and be like, all right, that's fine. Where in Doctor Who, it screams at you like every 2 seconds. I feel like, and I know Doctor Who's more for children, but like I was a fucking like. When do you think I started watching Star Trek? Right, I started watching Star Trek when I was like 6, 7 or something. Like my brother would put it on, and I'd be like watching Star Trek, and I'd be like, wow, this is class. And I still watch Star Trek. I watch Star Trek now. I'll watch Star Trek when I'm like, I'm like that like old Snape joke. You know, it's like, you know. Still, Lewis, always. But yeah, like I think I know, but I don't know. There's something about Doctor Who that's like, I know it's for children and that, but like it's, I don't know. Maybe it's the, and even the vibe. It's like the vibe of Doctor Who's just not like. Also, where's the space? Where is the like progress? Right, like. I like the fact that like in Star Trek it's like envisioning. I don't know why I'm going like more and more pink as this is going on, but like Star Trek it imagines the world as it should be, you know. I wish Star Trek hadn't existed with hadn't ended with Enterprise. Crazy how nothing existed for the IP since then. What do you mean? What do you mean, like pink skin? I actually thought it was class. I actually think it was class. I loved Enterprise. I love that they just call him pink skin. It's just like, I am actually pink skin. Yes. Yeah. No, it was class. David Tennant is a good actor in general. I'll give David Tennant his credit, right? Yeah, it is. Doctor Who is sci-fi for normies, actually. That's true. But like, but yeah, no, like Star Trek Enterprise was actually really good. I actually really enjoyed Star Trek Enterprise. Was it as good as the Next Generation and Deep Space Nine and Voyager? I don't think it was even as good. Like, it was good. It was good, but it wasn't like as good as like they're like the triumvirate of like the Star Trek world. You know what the thing is? Unpopular take: Star Trek Enterprise is better than Star Trek the original series. Right? I don't even feel bad about saying it. I like Star Trek the original series only for the fact that, in some respects, because it started off how Star Trek is kind of develops. It sort of laid the ground for all the concepts that were like later expounded upon better, but like couldn't be expounded upon to a normie audience in the 1960s. Ever watched Stargate? Of course, I watched Stargate. I fucking love Stargate. Oh, Stargate was so good. SG-1, man. Yes. What's he called? Colonel? Oh, no. What's he called? Oh, no. I have to. I'm sorry. What's he called? There was Teal'c. I remember Teal'c. Colonel O'Neill. That's it. There's Colonel O'Neill. There's Samantha Carter. Daniel Jackson. I mean, Christopher Judge, right, as... Boy, I can't believe like we had like Teal'c is God of War. it's like it's just class. SG-1 was so good. Stargate Atlantis was pretty good. Stargate Universe was so weird. Like, I don't know where the went with that. Like, I don't know if anyone watched Stargate. That was wild. Like, yeah, modern Trek feels like Normie's version of Star Trek without understanding what made it work. 100%. Oh my fucking god. I can't watch any of it. I tried watching... I mean, I haven't tried watching, like, some of the newer ones. And, like, I know apparently the latest season of Picard's supposed to be... Ronan. Wait a minute, Ronin, wasn't that like no, there was Ronin in like wasn't no, wait a minute, what was he called? Yeah, it was Stargate Atlantis, wasn't it? And it was Jason Momoa. Yeah, that's it. Fuck, that just brought it back there, man. His name is Worf. I know. Waff. But isn't that a joke? Who's it? Someone calls him Mr. Waff. Isn't it like, it's fucking Deanna Troy's mother. Like, what's she called? What's she called? Deanna Troy's mother. Oh, no. What's her name? Loaxana. Mr. Woof. Mr. Woof. Class. Yeah, it's why I say Star Trek ended with Enterprise. Yeah, that's wise, man. I say the same sort of thing with Star Wars. Like, it's like 7, 8, and 9 never happened. I don't know what anyone's talking about. Like, I think I just sort of just gaslight people now about that. I'm like, there's only 6 Star Wars movies. I don't know what the fuck's wrong with you. Like, you know, I'll be like, oh, and then they had that spin-off, you know, Star Wars. Fucking what's it called? Oh shit! What is that Star Wars movie called? It's actually the only one of the only good like. It's what's it called, man? It's like the name's there, and it's eluding us. Rogue One. I knew it was one. I'm like thinking it was like, but Rogue One was actually really good. Everything else, so like, and also like the Clone Wars like series was incredible as well. But everything else, nah, that didn't happen, man. Like, none of that happened. I don't know what anyone's talking about. Like, I don't ever remember a movie called like A New Hope 2. Like, yeah, like I think you could probably get away with it as well. I think you're trying to tell me they made another Star Wars movie with a bigger Death Star that destroys 3 planets. Oh yeah, sure, like they would do that. You know, like they've made the Death Star twice. Oh, you're telling me they made a movie about how Emperor Palpatine comes back from the dead with a fleet of planet-destroying ships that he's had being built this whole time and is just doing the same thing as all of the other Star Wars movies that's after the new Death Star has been destroyed. Yeah, it's okay. It's like, you know, I feel like you could totally gaslight someone and like into being like, oh yeah, that does actually sound ridiculous. Maybe I am crazy. Maybe none of that actually happened. Maybe I just had a bad dream. Like, and you know what? I don't even think you'd be wrong to do that. I think you'd be doing them a favor, because if you can convince them that none of that happened and that it was all a lie, I think the world would be a better place. That is what Plato meant when he talked about a noble lie. That is a noble lie. Okay, like there's no reason that anyone should believe that those movies happened. Like also, like, Princess Leia just Supermans our way into, like, on the 8th movie. Luke dies from straining himself or something. There's the sacred texts, which apparently don't matter at all. And also, you don't need to be trained in terms of how to be a Jedi. You can magically heal people in ways like, you know, every other Jedi just that sort of died, right? But, like, from... but like not these guys. Like Rey is such a Mary Sue. It actually hurts. Like, I actually hate Rey so much. Right? Not the actress. I don't blame the actors and the actresses. Like, because a lot of them are like, You know, like when they talk about it, you can see that they feel uncomfortable about it. But like, it's the actual plot of it. Who did that? Who thought, you know what? We're going to break all of Star Wars' canon. We're just going to break it all. We're just going to absolutely... I know that, like... So there was the tragedy. There's some of it, I think, that gets put down on the fact that it was, like, tragedy. Was in, like, J.J. Abrams' daughter died. I think, on the 7th movie. Like, at the... so, like, partway through the 7th movie, his daughter died. Obviously, like, the director's daughter has died or something. That was, like, absolute tragedy. Then they brought in that absolutely shit director who's known for like subverting expectations. Like, so like he just 180s the entire direction of the Star Wars franchise. Like, so like J.J. Abrams was like playing it really too coy. He was like, we're basically doing A New Hope again, because he's clearly like worried about pissing off the fans. So he's like, we'll just stick to what we know. We're making A New Hope 2. That's what it, like, The Force Awakens is just A New Hope 2, right? And then this guy comes in, and he's like, what's he called? Ryan Johnson, yeah? Right, like he just 180s the entire thing, and he makes Luke the most hateable character ever, who's like, just like, the whole point, right, is like there's been loads of times when they talk about the future isn't set in stone, the future's not determinate, but also you can kind of see the future, and these things sort of lead to the future. These things happen, and but like they just make Luke has like a nightmare one time and decides to kill his like nephew, right? Like, thanks, right? You've just ruined Luke Skywalker. I cannot believe you. Like it, like it's like you've taken one of the most beloved characters, and you've just made him, like, if anything, like a horrible cunt. And not only is a horrible cunt, but he's a grumpy, old, horrible cunt who doesn't care about anything, but then really cares about these books. And the person that I'm supposed to be siding with is actually a person that I kind of want to die in the story, so the story could progress to something more interesting. Hello. I'm gonna go off. Like I said, I would come off in 20 minutes. Like so it's been 25, so I'm gonna come off now, guys. But like I just wanna reiterate this one last time. 7, 8, and 9 never happened. As far like that is like, I think what prequel, what sequels? The sequels never happened. Star Wars. There's only 6 Star Wars movies, right? Like that. Like there's like Rogue One, like the spin-off, and then there's like the Clone Wars. But there's only 6. Like, what are you talking about? So yeah, that is our dogma. I've never even heard of the sequels. I don't think there is. Like, what is that sound? Is it beeping? I'll go and sort that in a second. I'll see what that is. Okay, guys. Right, I'm gonna bounce. I hope everyone has a very good evening. Check out the webinar. It's free reading list for those of you who want to get into philosophy. Free downloadable, really great. Suggest check it out. Have a good night, everyone, and as always, try to gain some perspective.